Monday does look fresh again, and the business community never goes down with how it is actually making rounds across the world and, of course, across the East African community region. How are you doing? Hope you're doing fine. It is Monday, and this is the 16th of January 2022. We are definitely here to give you more business updates and more business as it's supposed to come through, and basically rotating around, informing you as well, but as well giving you updates as they are supposed to be for you to at least fit in and know how to effectively take charge of your businesses wherever you are. You're watching Smart Means Business. This is Smart 24 TV, and our first update this morning that is actually kicking it off from all angles of business. We look at women economic empowerment, where there is actually a system whereby the effectiveness of these particular women and their groups is actually something that has been greatly undermined for the past few years. But of course, the women groups in the various areas of the country continue to at least encourage other women and other female stakeholders within the business communities, whether public or in the private sector, to at least position themselves so well since the year 2023 has kicked off, to at least have a say when it comes to the business world. Let's have more in this update.
Introductions of the self-help group guidelines that were issued in my previous, the previous presenter mentioned and had a picture where we issued these guidelines, where the Honorable Minister at Media Center issued these guidelines, and they will take effect from 1st January this year, 2023. The application and scope of these guidelines is stipulated under Section 99, which mentions all the self-help groups, and 7 groups belong under this section. The objectives of the operational self-help group guidelines: to assist the self-help groups or savings groups to establish a financial stabilization mechanism for the SHGs. As you are all aware, you can be in a group, even the elites. You mobilize your savings and the committee members decide to take off with what? Your monies. So we want to establish that financial stabilization mechanism, promoting a fair and equitable practices by setting minimum operational standards. In these guidelines, we outlined and even attached how a constitution for a group should look like. To increase transparency in order to inform and empower members of the group, then to foster public confidence in the SHGs. All the promoters, the development partners who have been supporting these groups, we did not have guidelines in place, but we want to thank Belinda. Bill and Melinda Gates through Care International. They supported the development of these operational self-help group guidelines. The registration of the 7 groups. The rationale why groups should register. If you have a group within campus and you have not registered, then you need to register because you need to have a social protection, then a support linkage to the financial services. Even when you register a group and you walk into a bank, they will want maybe a certificate of registration from, if it is a division, because we are in Kampala, a city. But if it is a local government, it can be acquired from the municipal council, then also from the district community development officer's office. Then also you benefit from capacity building programs, because a development partner like Care International will only focus on the groups which are registered. They will not look at the groups which are not registered. Then access to opportunities with government. Government looks at groups which are only registered. Even when we talk about the Emyoga associations, the parish development model associations, those are groups, but they have to be recognized within the local government structures by obtaining a certificate. This process, I've talked about it, registering with a community development officer. One of the challenges that we had is coming up with a uniformed fee at registration level. We had dissemination activities, we had consultative meetings. You find one local government charging 100,000, you find another one charging 30,000, depending on how the council of that local government decided. We would even find some groups using the NGO Act, charging these groups, taking them as if they are community-based organizations, and they would charge the fees using the NGO Act. In these guidelines, we tried to look at the principles of the groups. For a woman, for me to benefit from that group, we should be bounded to follow certain principles. And these principles are also outlined within the guidelines. We said a group should be self-independent. They should have zero tolerance to arrears. That if we have collected our money as women and we have saved and we have decided to lend it out to maybe 3 women, they should be able to pay back our money, because these are savings from all of us. So this is one of the principles that we highlighted, zero tolerance to arrears. We looked at the group financial transactions, that within that group they should be able to have records. When you're saving and there's no one taking records in that group, there are so many high chances that members will not be able to recover their funds. Then accountability, the committees should be able to be accountable to the monies collected within these groups. Then the time-bound audit. Most of these groups have share outs at a certain calendar year. Some of them, their calendar year ends in June. But as the implementers of this section, we are sensitizing for the groups for their calendar year to end in December, such that we have a uniformed reporting. Then a group also is formed on social cohesion. So then financial and the share out mechanism, we are saying all registered groups shall be encouraged to access financial services from a financial service provider of their choice. And the group's constitution shall stipulate the loan management procedures. So in their financial stability, they should be able to have guidelines that if we have issued out a loan, we are able to recover like this. The role of serving groups on women economic empowerment. Different scholars have written on this. One scholar mentioned creation of assets. So our guidelines are aiming at that if we have organized groups, the women will be able to create assets of their own. You're able to borrow money and invest. If you're investing, you're able to buy maybe a small piece of land. Someone talked about can a woman own land? Even in the elites, get money and buy that land in your names. Tomorrow you have issues in what? In the marriage. So are we empowered? Another scholar wrote about the economic security. Economic security is a woman can be able to meet the basic needs like health, education for their children. Most of our grandmothers and our aunties and our mothers were able to take their children to school because of participating in those saving groups. Those days it used to be Thinker and Faulu. So because of having those saving groups, the mothers would be able to join those groups and were able to educate their children. Control over economic resources. If a woman now has contributed on the house, there's no way how the man can chase out that woman from what? From the house. So they can only get empowered through these savings. Because if she's not, a woman cannot walk into a bank. Some of them even remove shoes before they enter the bank. Why? Because the bank has ties. So that empowerment, that if she cannot enter the bank, she can get the same facility from the village saving at her village level. accessibility to necessary resources to achieve their aspirations. If a woman is able to educate her child through these savings and she's able to get those education funds from their savings, she can easily educate her child, because even the banks have decided to extend credit to these groups. They assess how much saving has been saved into this group, and they're able to disburse to the whole group, and they share that money into credit. Then a woman is able to start micro and small enterprise. They're able to generate income and consumption for smoothing their families, then reduce poverty. When you look at saving, if we promote saving culture, we can reduce poverty, because you'll be able to, you save small monies, it accumulates. We counted, if you're 100 people, each person saves 1,000 per day. How much is it a month? How much is it a year? So you're able to contribute this money, and you're able to revolve this money within yourselves. You're able to do certain things that you wouldn't have done if you're not into these savings groups.
Well, there's an issue to do with self-group guidelines that were set out as of 1st January in order to empower women, especially the women in business in the country. And of course, their effectiveness did start off on the 1st of January. But not only that, there is an issue to establish a financial stabilization mechanism, which is most likely to help the self-independent women to at least fit in, like I did mention, and of course to help in bookkeeping and promote the saving culture among these women. So it is something that all women are actually highly expected to be part of. But of course, beside the same situation, you get to realize that as of yesterday, sad news did happen or were heard of across the social media platforms as well as other media outlets in regards to a bomb blast that killed some Ugandans during church service at the border. So this is at least 10 people killed and 15 wounded in a suspected terrorist bomb attack during the Sunday services in a church in the Eastern Republic of Congo, in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. And when you look at this particular one, that is in a mile away from the Mpondwe border post with Uganda. More details to proceed accordingly, as the police will as well be issuing out an update later on today. But well, besides that, now we're heading into the press review this morning. With the press review, we've got the East African Daily Monitor and, of course, the New Vision this morning to give you more of the press review about how things are moving. And the East African says Uganda, Dar es Salaam standard gauge really clear as Kenya derailed. How is that particular one? After close to 8 years of funding drought, Kampala has ditched China for the railway. Meanwhile, Kenya grapples with a broken link to Malaba and the rest for the East African Community Market. Remember last week, Uganda did ditch China to sign up with a Turkish group to ensure that the construction of the Eastern Gauge Railway does continue. Now, also on the other hand, there is a storm brew over Kagame's order on Congo refugees. It's something that is actually coming up this particular morning. Now, also on the other hand, there is an outlook for capital markets authorities' plan to boost investor confidence, especially those who lose their money to brokers. Now, besides that report card on abuse of children, there's a report coming in here this particular morning. So you get to realize it's something that people should be able to at least get more of the kind of situation to realize. Now, East Africa shines in the African Continental Free Trade Area trial fairs as Kenya, Rwanda and Tanzania among a team of the first 8 to be in this same space. Now, away from that, we look at the Daily Monitor as there is something regarding the Luelo authorities who have reopened bomb mosques after 2 weeks. That is in here as 300 Cancer Institute staff to reapply for their jobs. This is courtesy the Daily Monitor as well. President Museveni is in the United Arab Emirates for a 3-day visit. This is following the situation that he is likely to hold talks with Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, who is the president of UAE and the ruler of Abu Dhabi in here. Now, also government is seeking donor support to counter next Ebola outbreak at the end of the day. As not only that, you come to realize that there is something to do with traders counting losses as fire guts Chitagwenda market. Now, also, lastly, from the press review, something to do with the new vision, as Kampala City Council Authority is set to relocate over 40,000 businesses in the CBD. Then besides that, President Museveni orders more funding for Petroleum Institute in that space. But not only that, there is a budget that is a 38 billion shilling budget which has been allocated for police housing at the end of the day. Now, with the press review coming in to an end this morning, we had the Daily Monitor, New Vision, and of course, the East African newspaper. We cross over to Berige Andrew for the traffic update this particular morning to give us more of what is coming in from there so that you can choose directly which route to use.
All right, thank you very much, Joram. And today we are right here at the Ginger Road traffic lights, observing the traffic situation just right here. It's a very cold Monday morning, and definitely people are waking up to go and, of course, pursue those businesses, go attend those jobs. But according to the overall analysis on this entire area today, it's very calm. There is not really much congestion as you can observe. What could really explain this? It's because the traffic lights are the ones in total control, of course, regulating the traffic lights. Unlike certain times when the traffic officers normally are delayed bait. Now, getting straight to observe the area, if you look at the Ginger Road, Kampala Road, like the vehicles coming from Kampala Road heading straight to Ginger, it's very calm. So if you're going to use this particular route when you're coming to town at this particular time, it's very safe for you, and I will guarantee you that you will be in position to reach whatever destination you're going to. Probably you're going to Nakawa, or probably you're going to cross over to a roundabout there and you head to, that's where Gary. Yes, I'll guarantee you that you will be in position to reach in the actual time right there. It's quite a free lane, and ever since we actually came on site, it's been very, very free, simply because there are no traffic officers, of course, trying to control that. Now, if I'm to look at the Nile Avenue right here, definitely if you're coming from Fairway, you're coming from one again, you're going to pass via Kololo, then connect to Fairway, find that it's also quite a free lane. It's not really as tight as it should be. Yes, the congestion is a little bit mild. So if you're coming from that area and you're probably crossing over here and you're going to head to Nakawa or cross over straight to industrial area, you will be in position to actually in time. The congestion is not really tight, because if you observe, the vehicles are being held in a range of 2 to 3 minutes by the traffic lights. It's quite fair, you know, unlike sometimes when there is a human involvement, which sometimes carries a bias at the end of the day. So that explains why the congestion is not really tight. So if you look there, it might look like it's going to be very tight, but you're going to be surprised. In the next 2 to 3 minutes, the vehicles will be released and they will be able to go into the destination. Now, just like I've just said, it's what is happening right now. If you observe that, they are leaving 2 to 3 minutes, maximum is 4 minutes when these vehicles are being held, of course, into the jam. Now, away from there, if we head straight, dissect a little bit, we observe the traffic condition right there. It's kind of a little bit also still mild, though. If you're coming from Bugolobi and you're planning to come to town and you're going to pass via the Ginger Road traffic lights, Yes, it's a little congested slightly, though still the vehicles. What really explains this is because there are quite so many vehicles that are connecting to this route. There are vehicles that are coming from Nakawa, of course, Wegere, coming from all those areas. And then at the same time, there are those vehicles coming from Port Bell Road, connecting still on this particular lane, heading to town, you know, Luzira, Chitintale. So that explains why you can see that congestion right there. So probably if you're coming from Nakawa, you're coming from Bwegere, Chambogo, Banda, and you're planning to use this particular route, you might be a bit delayed. Not because of the too much involvement, but simply because of the many vehicles. But also, if we are to look right here, I can see the traffic officers are coming here, taking over charge over the traffic lights. I think that is why it's explaining why there is so much delay. If we can observe right there, before we came on ground, there were no traffic officers to actually control this jam. The vehicles were controlling themselves right there. So if you're coming from Boyagere, probably going to use Port Bell Road, you're coming from Chintale and you're heading to town, at this particular point, you might be a bit delayed. So you could probably try other alternatives to find a way you can actually connect to the city center, and you go and you can transact your business. So that's the condition right there. If you can observe, straight there, we see the traffic officers taking charge of the traffic, full charge regarding that. But before, there was people were controlling themselves, I'll say, that are driving these vehicles, and there was quite a smooth flow of the vehicles. Now that's industrial area. Of course, connecting all the way to Chibuli. So vehicles, if you're coming from Chibuli and you're probably heading to Bugolobi, or you're heading to Nakawa, or you're also heading to town, and of course you're going to pass via this particular roundabout, you may not take so long, but still I would advise you to take another alternative, ever since the traffic officers are taking over the traffic congestion, and it's now turning out to be a little congested. The jam to increase the tide, unlike before, when it was a little bit free. So you can observe the situation right there. Not so many border riders this morning as such, like on other days, but also we're seeing business moving on as usual. So that's the situation just right here at the Ginger Road traffic lights. And at this particular time, back to studio with...
And of course, that is Berigi Andrew for you with those particular updates coming in from Ginger Road. And you can easily see that the flow of the vehicles in there is something to be worried about this particular week. People have already hit the road and it's already busy. The traffic is already congested. Traffic jam already congested, already tight. So that means if you are to move out of your house currently, you should be doing that at this particular time, because at any one point you will get to realize that it's not going to be that easy for you with the kind of traffic that is out there. Well, with that particular update, as we're heading into the break, just to quickly remind you that Zabu is available for you and you can invest in government bonds. Use the USSD code *292#. Follow the prompts as they come in, and of course you will be able to invest in government bonds with just a minimum of 15,000 Ugandan shillings. So besides the same situation, you get to realize the Zabu, which is a platform out of East Africa, says you can do something new. Now the only new thing that you can do today is to invest in government bonds. Zabu, my money, my future, powered by Altex East Africa, which says do something new. The markets open at 8:15 a.m. and close at 3:15 p.m. East African Standard Time. They are only closed full time during the weekends and on public holidays, but the rest of the time you will be able to invest in government bonds and securities. Zabu, my money, my future. Altex East Africa, do something new. And while we do head into a break, when I do return, I've got Karibu East Africa and the latest from the international outlets.